I was thinking recently about whether I would consider myself a country mouse or a city mouse. And by the end of this internal debate, I had to laugh a little bit because I was reminded of what always happens. I'm in the city, I'm in New York City, and after a couple weeks of being in New York, I start hearing all the noise around me. Like yesterday, there was jackhammering right outside my front door. It was 90 degrees outside, and this jackhammer was just pummeling the pavement. It seems like every month they're jackhammering outside my front door. Con Ed cannot get their act together. They're always closing off the street and jackhammering, and I have to walk by like this. It's hot. There's people everywhere, and I long for the country. I get on the train and I come up here. I'm in rural Rhode Island, and then after about 10 days, I start to feel like, it'd be so nice to just get on my bike and ride down to a bar and sit outside and people watch. I start to miss people, and I start to miss some of that noise. And I just need to go back to the city. So I'm very lucky in that I have the best of both worlds. I have the country and I have the city. And when I'm in here in Rhode Island, in the barn, there are days like today when it's fairly dark in here. It's rainy outside. The technology is so good that it adjusts to this dark environment, and what you are seeing is not what I'm seeing. It's a lot darker in here than it appears to you. When it's dark in here, I light these oil lamps. And oil lamps have been something that I've loved since I was a kid. I think my first introduction to oil lamps was watching Little House on the Prairie with my parents and asking them what those were, and having both my parents say that they used them, they used oil lamps regularly in Sri Lanka growing up. When I started working at Pioneer Village, I actually used oil lamps regularly at Pioneer Village when it would get dark in the buildings. But at Pioneer Village, we also had this annual event called Lamplight, where for 2 or 3 weekends close to Christmas, the village would be open at night. And it was a ticketed event that would often sell out, where the public would come into the village and all the buildings would be open in the dark and everything was lit by lamp. Because outside of those few weekends, the village was only open during daylight hours. So I think that was my first experience of being surrounded completely and solely by lamplight. And it really was a magical experience. Time seems to stand still when the only light source is one of these oil lamps. Light from a lamp is actually different from light from a candle. There's just something different about candlelight. I think it's because the fuel source is right there, and it's solid fuel. You have the wax of the candle or the fat from the candle, and you're watching it actually go down. So the solidity of the candle is disappearing and turning into the flame. Whereas with a lamp, you have sort of just the flame coming out off of this cotton wick, and the fuel is also visible, but it's not solid, it's liquid. And subconsciously, there's something about that liquid aspect to this, I think, that transfers into the light. There's a liquid connection to the light that we're seeing. There's just a wonderful, wonderful glow from lamplight. And it had been so many years since my experience at Pioneer Village. I would say over 20 years between working at Pioneer Village and then lighting a lamp again for the first time. But when I have been in the barn where I have just lit the lamps, and those few rare occasions where I've been in the barn at night, because it's kind of scary in here at night. The barn's a distance from the house, and there are all kinds of creatures outside that are scary, and the walk back to the house is kind of freaky. I carry this with me, and all it lights up is a little path in front of me, but I don't know what's all around me or behind me. It's very scary. So I'm not often in the barn at night, but when I have been in here and I've lit the lamps in here, it's taken me back to Pioneer Village. This feeling of time standing still is also coupled with a very intense feeling of quiet. Even when people are talking in a room lit by lamps, everything feels very intimate and quiet. So I want to show you the lamps that I've acquired over the years, over the last couple of years. These are sort of recent acquisitions that I have here in the barn. 2 of these lamps are actually from Toronto. I found them when I was with my friend Laura, when we were antiquing together. Laura packed them up expertly in custom-sized boxes that she made for the journey, and I brought them back here to Rhode Island. The very first lamp that I got was this lamp. Laura and I were near her apartment. We were at an antique shop, and we were looking at everything, and we both spotted this. And I thought, look at how beautiful that chimney is. This is the chimney. So there are different parts of a lamp. You have the base that holds the fuel. Then you have the burner. Let me just go and get a burner because I have some spare burners. Oh, there are a bunch of things. I have some lamp parts in here. So you have the base, you have the burner, this is the burner, and then you have the chimney, which is often, well, it always is, glass. And those parts are what make up a lamp, and they're all very important. So on this lamp, the very interesting thing is that the wick is a very wide wick that gets curled into a ring and comes out of the burner in a round shape. And that is called an Aladdin lamp. So I'm going to light this one. So the lamp is actually a ring, the flame is actually a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. It burns, burns, burns. Ring of fire. Johnny, your voice is too deep for me to sing. I can't sing like Johnny Cash. His voice is way too deep. Look at that. This is a stunning lamp. So this Aladdin lamp, I had never seen one in person. And when we saw this in the antique shop, Laura and I inspected it, and everything seemed intact. Also, the chimney, which is often broken, the glass chimneys are often replacements or reproductions. This one, I think, is original, and this one, I think, is old, like early 20th century, late 19th century. The top is uneven over here. It's just, this is just a stunning, stunning lamp. The base is brass. So it was, all the parts were there. It was in working condition, it seemed. I brought it back to Rhode Island, put some fuel in it, and lit it, and it works. Which often isn't the case for antique lamps. So, this was the first lamp. The second lamp that I got was this lamp. And I got this lamp in St. Jacobs with Laura again. We were at the St. Jacobs Antique Market, and close to the end of our perusing, I spotted this on a wall of a booth, and I went over and I was like, I think this would be great in the barn. It has what's called a reflector, and this reflector is just a piece of tin that has been crimped and very sort of crudely put onto this primitive wall bracket. But what I love about this lamp is it feels very industrial. It feels like a factory lamp, but because it's an oil lamp, it's a very utilitarian, beautiful thing. I had never seen one like this. This was the first time that I saw a lamp like this. So I bought this, brought this back to Rhode Island, and then since buying this lamp, I've seen quite a few of them. I've seen like 10 of them in the last year in my various antiquing journeys. This lamp goes on the wall here in the barn, and it actually goes right above where I wash my hands. So when it's rainy and dark in here, I do light this lamp so that my little sink station is illuminated. The reflector is supposed to help reflect the light back into the room. You can see, maybe you can see, that the flame also kind of quivers sometimes, and there just isn't an equivalent to a live flame. I feel like it's rooted in us, this connection to actual fire. And with technology and the disappearance of having to use fire in our everyday life, like we have electric lights at night, something about that primeval need for fire is gone from our modern lives. But then when we're around it, even when we're at a restaurant and there's a little tea light on the table and it's an actual real tea light, I do feel like it's in our core to have this connection to that tiny little flame. So acquiring these lamps and then using them has really brought some wonderful magic back into my life, and a reminder of light, like light being just a thing that we need. We especially when we're doing something, we need light to see what we're doing, but that I have the choice. There is electricity in the barn, and there were fluorescent lights hooked up to the ceiling, but we got rid of them, and I solely use these oil lamps when it's dark. So that's lamp number 2, the bracket lamp. Oh, I should also say that when I brought this bracket lamp back to Rhode Island, I noticed that there was a problem with the hardware. The burner was completely rusted, and the collar, it's a brass part that fits onto the glass base. The collar was completely mangled and also rusted. So I needed to find replacement parts. And there are companies online that supply and sell replacement lamp parts, which is wonderful, because you might find something that you really love, like this. I found this at a junk shop actually for like $3, but it was just the base. So often you'll find just this. This is how I found this thing. This metal ring here is called the collar, and the collar is often attached to the glass base with plaster. That's how they sort of glued the collar onto the glass base. So I found this, and then I knew that I could find the replacement parts. So the thing that I needed for this was the burner. This is called the burner, and I went online and I measured the opening of the collar, the threaded collar, and I found on these online sites like antiquelampsupply.com is one of them, the measurement that I needed for the collar. It specified for this opening you need this size burner. And sure enough, when I ordered the burner screws in and fits perfectly. If the lamp's collar was compromised, I could have also ordered the collar online, which I have done before. So here I have a bunch of different sized collars for different lamps. When I attached this collar back onto the glass, I used plaster. I mixed up some plaster and stuck that back on. And the thing that this lamp is missing, which I have yet to find, is the chimney. I haven't actually looked for it, admittedly, but you could find all kinds of chimneys as well, glass chimneys in all different sizes and styles that would fit on the top. This one's too small for this lamp. I thought this was the right size. It wasn't. So the pieces arrived and they didn't fit, but eventually I'll get a chimney for this beautiful green glass lamp. Now, when I ordered these lamp burners from Antique Lamp Supply, one of those sites, they were offering some antique unused lamps for sale. And this was the third acquisition for the barn. This is a beautiful 1920s glass base, frosted glass with a clear glass bowl, and it was never used. So the lamp supply company provided the collar and the burner and the chimney, which are all new, for this beautiful glass lamp base. The lamp base has 3 frosted human heads in it, and I love this one. This is often the lamp that I'll use on this table. If I'm doing some work here and it's really dark, I will bring over this lamp, just because it's kind of higher and it's on a pedestal. This ends up being the lamp I use the most in the barn. Wick. The wick comes in all different sizes, and it's the width of the wick that determines the size of the wick. So the width of the wick is calculated by the size of the opening on the burner. You kind of measure the opening, and then there's a slot actually. There's a slot inside the opening, and it's this exact slot size that determines the wick width. And that, again, you can find online. You can buy little pieces of it, you can buy it by the foot, or you can buy it by the roll. It's very important to use the right wick. Don't just find something at home and try to use that as wick. It needs to be braided cotton wick. This is the third lamp I got. And then I found these beautiful, I think they're called hurricane lanterns, because you can use them outside when it's very windy and the lamp will not go out. Or they're called barn lanterns. These hang, so they have you can hang them like this from this little loop up here, but you can also carry them, and the handle's up here so that it heats up down here, but your hand is not going to burn while you carry them. This is a solid brass lamp from a wonderful company called Vermont Lanterns. And Vermont Lanterns produces a beautiful selection of brass, pewter, steel, a bunch of lamps in a bunch of different metals. I really like the brass ones. I have a pair of these. They're very sturdy and well made. The brass is heavy, and I've been using this for the last 2 years. They're great. I sometimes, when I'm swimming at night in the pool here, or in the evening, I'll light the lamps. I don't never swim at night. I light the lamps and I take them to the pool and I place them at the head of the pool, and as the sun is going down, to see this lamplight at the top of the pool, heavenly. So these lamps, the way these work is the chimney gets lifted with this brass lever, which I love, and then light the wick and lower the chimney again. You want the wick to be low enough so that the flame is just about like an inch. If the wick is too high and the flame is too big, it'll smoke the whole glass. The glass will get all sooty very quickly. So look at that. Vermont lanterns. This is a new lamp, like they're still making these, and they come in a bunch of different finishes. Lamplight. Maybe it's something that you've heard about. Maybe it's something that your parents are familiar with. Maybe it's something that you only use when you go camping or when the power's cut. But I had forgotten about this magic for quite a while, and recently rediscovering it has made me kind of obsessed with oil lamps. And I like to spread my obsessions. So if this is something that intrigues you, you can check out a company like Vermont Lanterns or Antique Lamp Supply, or you can go out there and look at flea markets and antique stores. Maybe you'll find something that is completely intact and ready to use, or maybe you'll find something that just needs some love and care to be brought back to life. Oil lamps, they're things of beauty.